This podcast is brought to you by our amazing Anime Addicts community. If you want to join the community and make some new friends, head over to our Discord, AAADiscord.com. Get out your phone. I know you're on it right now listening. Pull up your browser and just type AAA Discord, and you will be introduced to a magical world like I was of Discord, where lots of people that like all the same sorts of things that you do are waiting for you to talk to you about anime and so much more. Again, come join the Discord at AAADiscord.com. And now, let's start the podcast.
Get ready! You're about to listen to the Anime Addicts Anonymous Podcast. Make your anime addiction worse at AAAPodcast.com. And now, here are your anime addicts.
Welcome back to the 748th episode of the Anime Addicts Anonymous Podcast. Our sole mission, of course, it's been the same since the beginning. It's to make your anime addiction worse. I am your host, Mitsugi, and I am joined by so many people today. We are joined by Caroline, calling in from, I believe it's upstate New York, or lower state. I can't remember.
State Shore. It's only like 2 hours from the city, guys. Jeez. Currently my screen is frozen on Twitch, and it looks like I'm just like giving the stink eye to everybody listening. I look like such a bitch.
You look very.
Oh, God.
You look very.
Why
concerned.
do I look like that? All right, I was gonna hold off on going on my hotspot to protect my Wi-Fi connection.
Your timeout is over. You're no longer frozen.
Oh, great, fantastic! But I think I better go onto my hotspot.
Continuing down the lineup, we also have the fabulous Andrew calling in from frozen Canada, where they eat salmon out of lakes with axes. That's right. It's very cold in Canada. How are you, Andrew?
I mean, I'm not that into fish. To be fair, I was going to come in and say, you think I would be more excited by two trains fighting in interdimensional space, but fish works too.
And rounding out the crew today, we have Lady Emery, who is putting on her sultry voice. Lady Emery, how are you doing in the Midwest?
I'm doing all right. I'm getting over a cold, so people, you're going to hear just my ASMR voice coming out today, but I'm here for it. I'm going to do my best. I'm here to maybe defend some trains, I guess. But
maybe not.
We'll find out.
Maybe not Lady Chatterley over here. She's going to give you her late night talk. All right. Well, guys, hey, if you want to join the ranks of Anime Addicts and help out the podcast, you can do it over at AAAPodcast.com/join, where you will help us out because things just get more and more expensive. The IT costs are insane, and I feel sad usually. And we are also on Patreon. You can follow us at patreon.com/AAAPodcast. Get over there. You're going to get all the extra content. We got our hentai episodes. We've done a couple extra juicy, spicy hentai episodes lately. So you'll enjoy that. We do our Hobby Addicts. We just talked about, for example, Diablo 4 over on Hobby Addicts, and also Look Back, so the anime film that was just in theaters, so you can catch that on Hobby Addicts. And then we also do our after parties after the show, and you'll be getting 8 exclusive episodes of all that every month for supporting. And, of course, you can watch us live on twitch.tv/AAAPodcast, and also we are live on YouTube, I believe. I'm technologically impaired, so I hope it's working. And we're live Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern. So, with all that said, what are we doing on the show today? We are going to be doing a tier ranker of anime monsters. So we're going to be going through some of our hand-picked monsters from anime. What that means, you'll have to wait and see, because that could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. So we're going to talk about anime monsters for you. And we're also going to be talking about the anime Train to the End of the World, the most durable hair and train mechanics of all time in this anime. So, and do we have another announcement regarding Anime Court? This is an upcoming episode, I guess. Next week, or on the I got this. On November 10th, we're going to be doing Anime Court. So I think Mason would probably want you to know that you can submit your My Anime lists for us to make fun of you. I believe that's what this is all about. We are going to review and judge your scores on My Anime List or on Annie List, and you will face the ultimate judgment. You will be, well, probably sentenced to death across the board. So stay tuned. Apparently there's a forum that's going to come out where you can submit your information and we will roast you essentially on the podcast. But until I have no details about that at this time, but just keep your eyes and ears peeled. We'll probably have it on social media, etc. So let's get to the news.
It's time for big news of the week.
Well, someone put this on the Discord because we have a news section, and sometimes it helps me find things without having to put forth any effort at all. And on the news this week, it looks like the creator of GTO is releasing a new manga, which I'm trying to get it here on the screen for you guys. It's called GTU Ikari no Death Yamada, or Great Teacher Uchi Yamada, which is, I don't know, just hilarious if you're a fan of GTO. Fury of Death Yamada. It's going to be coming out on Hero Inc.'s Comicplex manga site on October 18th, which is just around the corner. And I'm a huge fan of GTO. I think Onizuka is one of the best characters in any anime. I think he's super deep, super fun, and shit, I mean, I literally grew up on GTO. The manga is super big. I mean, it was very popular. And this is about, like, Uchi Yamada goes to... Where is he going in this? He's going to... And he follows a girl from one of his students, Nanami, who goes to Kabukicho, which I think is like a red light district in Tokyo, and has a, quote, dimension-bending nightmare after he gets there. So it's... I don't know. I was asking some questions online about this, like what that means exactly, and I don't know. But I mean, the photo of him with, like, you know, what does he even have? It's like he's holding like a nail bat with barbed wire, and he has a machine gun. So, what do you guys think? Do any of you guys like GTO? Are you excited about this? Would you read it? Would you watch it if it came out?
I feel like I need to get back into it if this is coming out with a new spin-off. I stopped maybe 12 episodes in because GTO is pretty long, but I also haven't read the manga to know if the spin-off is worth it.
I've never seen it, so I'm good.
Andrew, I don't think I've ever heard you talk about GTO before, but
I've actually never read GTO. I did read some chapters of the prequel manga, GTO The Early Years, and that was really silly.
Yeah, it's silly. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, but no, my library when I was a kid or in high school, I guess, had some of the GTO manga, but I never really had like volume 1 or 2. Like, it was always just random volumes, so I never really got into it, unfortunately. Or I might have read some of it in French. Either way, I'm not opposed to knowing multiple languages is just a thing that sometimes happens where I'm located. But it's just one of those things where I never really like sought it out. I know you speak highly of it, and it's just like one of those things it's like One Piece. It feels like there's a lot there. I just don't know if I want to see if I want to get into it.
I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but we do have time. I mean, I don't know how you guys have this impression of GTO that it's so long. I mean, the anime is only like 45 episodes, or 40, maybe 43. And really the first half of it is the best half, so there's not really that much. And the spin-off of the early years is only a 6-episode OVA. I think that, like, it's... For people listening, I think GTO is on Netflix now, and it is an extremely compelling watch if you get through the first hour, because the first hour plays like a movie, and it is some of the best content in the show. So if you haven't watched GTO, I mean, I would definitely go watch it. It's about an ex-biker gang leader who goes to become a school teacher because he wants to nail the high school girls but ends up getting put in a middle school class full of the most like demonic, troubled students of all time, and kind of like gradually wins them over and helps them with like their personal problems and stuff like that. But it's super funny and super just, I don't know, a very popular franchise. So I definitely recommend checking it out. It's on, and it's on Netflix. So what do you have to lose, really? I mean, so
I don't have Netflix, but that's for personal reasons.
Well, that's your own problem. All right, what else do we have for the big news? Real quick, also on the Twitch. Yes, I am watching Dragon Ball Daima, and yes, it is quite good already after just one episode. So people that Gohan Trunks fan on Twitch is talking about that. So, all right, who's up next?
I guess that'll be me. So, keeping up with my self-imposed title of Meter Maestro of Mecha, I'm just workshopping some titles here. I don't know which one I'm going to settle on. I found this article on the Anime News Network when I was just looking for some news randomly. I figured why not go to Anime News Network, and it turns out that there is a Gundam exhibit based off of the 1-to-1 scale Gundam, which I still have never seen, and I'm very upset by, because when I was in Japan, there was no Gundams at all for me to go to and take pictures with, but everybody else. Anyway, sorry, I'm off on a tangent. We're on a news segment. And so there's an exhibit for Gundam. It's running during the month of October, so unless you're going to Japan and like up until the 22nd, you might not get a chance to see it. But I think what's really cool about it is that there are several different sections in this museum exhibit. One of them is about the possibility of MS, innovation of future lifestyles, and space age of technology are the three main sections of the museum. But what really grabbed my attention was the title of this article, and that's something that you can do, even if it's only for like a limited window each day during the museum itself, is that you are able to play rock, paper, scissors with MS hands, with like Gundam hands. And so in the article, you'll see in the notes, I linked the article, you will see there's a video of the hands that they have on Twitter, or X, I guess, showing that the hands basically have all the range of motions of regular hands, and they're giant hands, and they don't show the rock, paper, scissors part, but you can essentially, up to like I think 4 people at a time can play rock, paper, scissors with these hands. And yeah, it's just like really cool to see the hands move. And they look like, it's really funny because they look like like if you built a model kit, they kind of look like those kinds of hands. And it's really kind of cool to see.
So this is running from, it's just a short amount of time though. I'm just gonna say I'm going to Japan in December again. And I know it's a embarrassment of Japan trips over here. But yeah, this is gonna wrap up in October. So yeah, we couldn't be able to do it even if I wanted to. That's sad.
Yeah, it's a pop-up exhibit, it seems like.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. So, yeah.
So you literally have some kind of a device that lets you control Gundam arms, and they do rock, paper, scissors?
Just the hands. Just the
hands. Okay.
Yeah.
That's still pretty
cool. And they can play rock, paper, scissors. Yeah, it sounds really cool. I would love to go see that exhibit. And it's like $10 to go for an adult. Actually even less with the conversion rate these days. It's like 950 yen to get a ticket.
I really think that you should plan another trip to Japan and go see some of these giant Gundams that are set up. I mean, I'm surprised you haven't been able to see it, but yeah.
I'm going to go for my 40th. I'm planning for my 40th. I got to save up some money and go for my 40th.
All right. Well, I have no idea how old you are, but I won't out you. All right. Next up in the news, we have Lady Emery. Lay it on us.
Yeah. Okay. So my news of the week is Goku Balloon is returning to the skies for the 98th Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And for those of you who don't know, I made a bet with Raggedy Doctor on our Discord that there it is. Oh my gosh, for those who are seeing it, it looks great. Don't get me wrong, it looks great. But I thought that they were going to go with a Kid Goku, just with Kira Toriyama passing, with
Rip.
Goku Daimya. Yeah. I thought it was going to be Kid Goku, not classic Goku. So I'm happy to see it, but mad that I lost the bet. So Raggedy Doctor will, come talk to the pit boss. We'll work some things out. It'll be fine. I know, Caroline, you watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which is live Thursday, November 28th in the U.S. on NBC or streaming on Peacock.
And
Are you excited?
Oh, very
for
nice.
this?
Very nice.
Sorry, was there I didn't hear if there was a...
Yeah, are you excited to see this? Are you excited?
I mean, I see Goku every year, you know? It doesn't look that different.
She's
His
jaded.
hair
It's
color
just
is
now he has
different.
black
He's
hair
usually
instead of this
blue.
for
She's
saying.
like, fuck it.
Like, kid Goku
You would rather
have been
watch
pretty
like
cool.
Luffy with his hat deflating, sadly.
Yeah, so is Luffy not going to be there? I was more interested to know if Luffy was there or not.
I'm hoping Luffy will be back there, but hopefully this year it won't get so windy that he, flies into some trees. But I haven't heard about Luffy yet, so
I mean,
Goku was the big news for me.
I mean,
but Kid Goku, I think I would have preferred that than just black-haired Goku. Yeah, it's not that different from what they've had before.
all right, a couple things. First of all, it's of course that they were gonna have Goku in the parade because Toriyama just died. So like, there's no way
They
he
have it
wasn't
every
gonna-
year as well. Anyway,
Well, of course they do because Goku is fucking awesome. But I do think that you guys are right. They really could. Why not have Kid Goku on the Nimbus cloud?
Right.
Like, come
That's
on.
what I was thinking.
It's like obvious.
It would have been perfect.
It looks like he's flying on it. It's in the fucking air. I know Goku can fly, but yeah, I think it's kind of a whiff. I don't know, honestly. I mean, maybe they just didn't want to. I'm sure these floats aren't cheap, so maybe they didn't want to. But honestly, they can't be that much. I mean, maybe
well,
they
they
are.
completely redid it anyway.
Right, that's it. It's already a new one because you're not doing Goku Blue. So
Goku
why not
Blue is
just
so
do
lame.
Young?
I don't think that this balloon looks particularly that good. In fact, I'm going to put it back up on the screen. I'm just going to call them out right here because this is. Look, I got some comments here to make. This Goku balloon.
Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
This Goku balloon doesn't look that good. His face looks like some Dragon Ball Super ass, like inaccurate modeling shit. And I'm not gonna lie, I was never that big of a fan of Dragon Ball Super. Right off the bat, the modeling is just terrible. And I think that everybody that's watching Dragon Ball Daima right now that was complaining needs to eat a little crow because we'll talk about this later. But Dragon Ball Daima looks friggin' amazing. Like the modeling is perfect, and the animation is such an improvement from Dragon Ball Super. Gonna be a lot of people eating a lot of fucking crow with this. And also, it's not that shocking that Luffy's not in the parade because let's just be honest, he's just not up to Goku's snuff.
He might be eventually. They're still announcing balloons and things, so we'll have to
You're
wait
not gonna
and see.
fight me on that? I actually threw that out there just as jab you, and you just gave
Were
me
you? Okay. Well,
Of
then I'll
course.
fight you on it. He was in it last year. One Piece is super popular. The live action is kicking off season 2. He'll be there.
Is this a new
We'll make
bet
a bet
that you're
if we
making,
have to.
Emery?
What was that?
Is this a new bet that you're making?
You want to bet with me right now?
I'll bet with you right now
Dun, dun.
that Luffy is going to be in the parade. I don't know what
This
we're
year?
betting. This year, yes. I will dedicate myself to watching the rest of GTO. That's what I'll do.
Oh my god, that's
What does Mitsuki have to do if he loses?
I already owe Raggedy Doctor like 50 episodes of Baki.
He has to watch
Jesus.
more of One Piece if he
Baki
loses.
There we
the-
go.
Baki the. I'm
Even
not
though
watching.
he already dislikes it.
I don't dislike it. I just think the art style is just bad. Like it's not that I know nothing about it. Honestly, I just don't.
Just force him to watch the One Piece.
What the hell is that?
Isn't that the remake that's coming out this year or next year?
Oh, yeah,
Oh my
the
God.
Wit Studio one.
Yeah, that's
Right?
gonna
Is that
look
what they're
good.
calling it? The One Piece?
I don't know, but I think we're
Jesus.
gonna have to differentiate it because it's gonna be
You're
like
right.
it's like how we call Brotherhood Full Metal Alchemist, right?
One Piece
we have to
One
come up with
Piece?
something.
I don't like that. That's not good. That's not a good title.
We'll figure out your end of the bet, Mitsuki. But I will if Luffy isn't in the parade, I will watch the rest of GTO.
I mean, you should just watch GTO anyway. Just do yourself a huge favor. I mean honestly, but okay.
But we're just in that.
Figure it out. Propose something that I need to watch or whatever. But yeah. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay, I'll think more on it.
I just, man, I don't know if I thought we were gonna bet about Luffy being in the parade for next year because of the live action that's gonna come out. Because I can't imagine was this the first year that Luffy was in the parade last year?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no fucking way they're gonna retire him in 1 year. Like they are definitely gonna be like,
Okay,
we just
okay.
spent $100 grand.
Specialty balloon.
I'm making a note because we are revisiting our bets, our 6-month bets from episode 742. We're going to revisit that in March. If we make new bets, this will be where it comes in. I'm making a note. This is gonna be
I just think he's probably going to be in the parade this year because no one's going to retire like $100,000 float like in 1 year. But I think next year he won't. He has a pretty decent chance of not being there next year unless something changes. It's a long way from now, but you know. All right.
Okay. I'm making a note of it. Come March, we're going to talk about this all over again.
Okay, maybe a feet bet. You know, we're going to lose the feet bet. Yeah, I'm not going to lose any feet bets. If I make a feet bet, I'm definitely winning. So, nobody wants to see that. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Let's move on to the main topic. We're going to do some monster tiering. So, I can't remember who proposed this. You guys have done a good job.
Emery's idea, I think.
Is this you, Lady Emery? Is this a unique?
No, I don't think it was. I thought this came up as
monster tiering.
I thought this came up as a joke because we were talking about Monster, the energy drink, and the tiering for that. And
that's
then
what I thought this episode was going to be.
Yeah, I was really worried because Which one though?
Yeah, well, I think we did. I think that was how it was. Like you guys mentioned doing a monster tier list, and I thought, oh, that would be a fun idea. Doing like actual monsters, not just monster energy drinks.
Okay.
I think that's how it worked.
So a couple notes about Monster, and I don't mean to get sidetracked, but let's be honest, that's what people want anyway, because people love fucking listening to people talk about whatever. Monster is produced in California, and regardless of whatever you think about California, they have done something quite good because all Monster energy drinks, I don't know if you guys know this, but food color is like the most poisonous thing you can put in your body. It's like, go look it up. Like, you don't want to be eating food color, especially yellow and red. But the Monster, the Coca-Cola company that makes Monster, now must use vegetable juice for all food coloring in their Monster beverages because food coloring has now been made apparently illegal, at least in beverages in California. So now any of the Monster energy drinks no longer have food color in them. That's a big fucking deal, all right? Second of all, pro tip, this is my third time I've drank this can of Monster because the flavoring is so intense that I now drink half of it, refill it with water, and drink it again because it is exactly the same taste the second time because it is that potent. So
I was a little worried when I saw you pouring something into it because it was a clear liquid. I was like, is that vodka? Is it water or vodka?
I drank enough.
I thought that was water.
I went camping yesterday and had a little bit of bourbon, and by that I mean a lot. At one point, Pancake was like, I want you to have a good time. Why don't you just drink it out of the bottle? And I was like, Jesus, like, drink it out of the bottle? I was drinking it out of Dixie cups. I thought that was degenerate enough, but anyway. So this topic we're doing, we have come up with a lot of monsters from across anime, and they're all sorts of things. We have literal monsters. We have humans that have monstrous personalities. You know, we have all sorts of stuff. And we are going to be putting them on this tier ranker. Let's see if I fucked this up yet. Do I have this tier ranker? Oh, man. We are going to be putting them up.
It's really funny.
Yeah, and
just while you look for it, I was going to say, so there was one monster I wanted to put on here, but I decided not to because I was afraid it was going to reveal my power level.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
It means it's not on here. But if you want to know, you can ask me about it in the Discord. I can't reveal it on the podcast because it would reveal my power level, and people can't know what my actual power level is at the moment.
You're such a weeb.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but
do you not know? I self-describe as an anime elitist, by the way.
That's okay. We have a drop for that actually on here somewhere. I can play that for you.
Don't be an elitist.
Yeah, I have a Don't Be an Elitist drop, yeah.
I will be.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so...
I was just mimicking what that drop was.
This fucking drop, this soundboard is so enormous that I can't find anything on it. It's so... I complain... Literally, it's just ridiculous. Here it is.
Don't be an elitist.
There you go. So we have the ranker. We're going to be going through a bunch of stuff, and I think we're going to... Did we decide to rank them just based off of how cool these characters were? I was going to say powerful and or cool because, you know, whatever, like... Or dangerous.
I mean... There could be some really powerful characters that we just don't remember because they were so uncool. So I feel like they go hand in hand with cool.
All right. Well, I'm going to be ranking them. I just think rank them however you want. I don't really give a fuck.
Okay.
So, but I think we should present them round robin style. I know you already ranked yours, Lady Emery, so we already know your opinion on yours, but I also think we rug pulled on you by just deciding to do a tier ranker. People love this tier ranker shit. It's all over the fucking internet. I'll kick it off. Okay.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah, best. Go for it.
I want to kick it off with an obvious sort of one here for me because it's Dragon Ball time right now. So Dragon Ball is like back. It's sexier than ever, you know, and it's pre-Dragon Ball Super, which makes it even better because Dragon Ball Super was very hit or miss. And I'm gonna go with what I think is probably the most monstrous of any of the Dragon Ball Z villains, and that is Cell, Perfect Cell. I think Perfect Cell is probably the most evil of any of the villains in Dragon Ball, and I would like to propose him as a villain that's worth looking at because he eats even from the get-go. If you've seen Dragon Ball, he literally absorbs and eats like entire cities worth of people. I mean, he is the epitome of evil, and also has enough power to basically destroy the Earth like 1,000,000 times easily. So I don't know how you guys feel about Cell, but I like him pretty good, and I would probably put him like either as an A or an S tier. Any thoughts?
I can't pass judgment because I've never seen it. So
I would say not S tier. I don't think he's like an S tier monster because at the end of the day he did get messed up by Gohan. So
that's true.
Can you really be S tier if that's what happens? I wouldn't put him as low. I would say I wouldn't put him lower than B tier for sure. I say in the time since he is a memorable villain. But I feel like we forget a lot about his monster origins. I was looking at some of the pictures you had put up here. And I'm like, right, I forgot he looked like a freaking bug before this. Until he gets to his perfect form.
Yeah. And then he gets dead sexy.
So yeah, I'd be okay with an A tier.
Emery, do you have an opinion on Cell?
I do. I would put him at a B. I could give him an A, but not quite S. But Bug Cell was actually terrifying. I did not like when he absorbed 18 and 17. Spoilers for those who have not watched Dragon Ball Z for however long it's been out. But
okay, well,
I want you guys to convince me what makes him A versus B.
Well, I mean, for one thing, he's a very classic shonen villain, so he's persisted for a long time. He's probably more powerful than most of the monsters on here. Like we're gonna do Devilman later. He would kill Devilman in like 1 second. Like there's no doubt about it. It's not even close. I don't know, and I just think he's got quite an exceptional character design. So I guess that's why I would do it. I mean, I can agree with not going S right away, even though I'm biased as fuck.
Definitely not an S in my opinion.
But I mean, putting Cell as a B tier is kind of like saying Dragon Ball doesn't have any A tier monsters in it, which I just can't agree with.
Well, what about Frieza? Like, so for me, I would agree. I like Cell over Frieza, but like some people would argue Frieza's the bigger monster.
Well, I would argue that they're the same, to be fair, because Frieza is just a child in a lot of ways, and so that kind of like if Frieza was a mature villain / monster, I feel like Frieza is an S tier, but he's actually just like a cowardly child. Like
Cell's bringing that gentleman, like male adult energy.
So it makes like partially I am also adding sexiness to some of these monsters because it is October, okay. It is Halloween,
okay. All right,
and sexy costumes are a part of Halloween. Do we not agree?
I love me a cat girl.
Okay, so but to answer Lady Emery's question about why an A tier, and so we can move on also because we don't want to spend the whole time on Cell. We could in essence, I think if you averaged out Bug Cell to Perfect Cell, I think it really goes the gamut. I think Bug Cell, with the way he absorbs the androids, is kind of almost like body horror-esque. In a way that I think is kind of interesting, the way he like just sucks them up with a tail. If I'm remembering correctly, it's just kind of like crazy and creepy, and it's just like goodbye. And this is after they've gained some sort of humanity as well, and they've been humanized by our hero characters. So you're just like, oh, they're not bad anymore. And then it's like Cell comes in and is like, yum, and that's kind of like messed up. So I would argue that would put him in an A tier, but he's also like a memorable monster slash villain from the Dragon Ball franchise overall, right? I would say him and Frieza are essentially like the top tier villains in general,
Yeah.
and but I would argue Cell is also brought down because he's more gentlemanly. He's here for a challenge. He's honestly, if you think about it, he's almost like the mirror image of Goku in a lot of ways. Anyway, I would say that's why A tier.
Okay, A tier.
We'll stick with that.
You convinced me. A tier. I'm good with A tier. I'm good.
All right, Lady Emery.
I'm gonna wear you down.
Do I get to go next? Do I get to?
You do. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like we would be remiss if we don't mention Ryuk from Death Note. And
Yeah.
I put him at an A tier as well. If you feel different, let me know. But like, Ryuk is just such a good monster. I don't know if it fits into the sexy monster category. I mean,
Look at his eyeballs.
I
How
get-
can you not want to just like get a piece
Get
of
lost
I
that?
think
in
we
them?
need to decide on what metrics we are basing this on. Because is it cool? Is it strong? Is it sexiness?
It's all of it.
all across the board right now.
I think
It's a
I think it
vibe.
matters to what genre we're talking about the monsters in, right? So like I'm saying I'm taking sexiness into account. That might help you. Not in this. Actually, Ryuk does have some sexy poses. We're just looking at his bed pose right now. But honestly,
Oh.
I would argue Ryuk is actually probably an S tier monster.
Ooh.
He is
Really iconic.
it not just iconic, but even, and I'm gonna, I guess, spoilers for the finale of Death Note. Like at the end of the day, he did not actually give a fuck about anybody. He was just there for his own enjoyment, and
love
he
that.
meant
there
it.
to be entertained.
And he kept his word when he said, when I'm done with you, I will write your name personally in that book, not L, Light. He's like, well, I'm done with you. And I think he kind of did. And then that was it. And yeah. And it was like cold. It was monstrous. He is just there for the fun. He did not care about anybody. I think he's like what I would consider an S tier monster in a lot of ways. Yeah, I would argue S tier personally.
Yeah, I know that before the podcast, Caroline was talking about humanoids, and while he fits into humanoids, as in like his like body shape to a certain extent, he's as far from a human as you can get, other than like the human one that wants to be entertained.
Yeah, like when I meant like humanoids, it would definitely feel like a lot of like people or a lot of monsters that take the form of humans at some point. Ryuk is not a human by any means, so I would not put him in that category. And I love Ryuk. He's like the what's the comedic release? No, it's the comedic
Comic relief.
comic relief. That's what am I talking about? Comic relief for the show, and yet he is the monster. But it's only because we look at Light as the more monstrous being that we are following. So I love his commentary and his love about apples. I would either do S or A. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm not sure about S, but I probably would do A.
I can live with an A. I like him. I like him in here for the same reason as Cell. I think that he's. I guess he's as iconic as Cell at this point. I don't want to be biased. He hasn't been around as long, but there's a lot of people that have watched Death Note. So to me, he's iconic, and that's why I would put him in the A tier. I don't know that he's like. I haven't seen enough Death Note to speak to his character on a deep level, but I doubt he's like S tier evil. But
No, he's like a chaotic neutral.
so,
Yeah.
but he's iconic. So I'd say Cell is evil, but we've already talked
But
about
we
him.
have
but-
not even decided if we are basing this on evilness. So
I just
it
think-
doesn't even matter.
I just like Ryuk as like an A tier, I think, because he's iconic. So does anybody want to feel very strongly for S, or we should just put him in A tier?
I do.
I'm good with A. That's where I had him originally.
I'll allow it.
All right, he is. In
I
the-
think S. I very much. I would argue S in a lot of ways. He is literally the reason why Death Note exists. The whole crux of that story.
All right, Andrew, you're up.
Okay, well, you know what? One of us actually had to pick an actual monster. with a monster in their name, and I'm gonna go with Devimon, the digital monster from Digimon. Uh, and so he is. I would argue it depends on which incarnation you're looking at, but he's basically a B tier monster in my opinion. He's the main antagonist for the first arc of the original Digimon series. He shows up in like the reboot, and he does have some mini. He has ramifications from his actions on some of the characters in throughout the entire run of the original group. Like the youngest child at the time, when they interacted with them, essentially Devimon is a part of his like childhood trauma that he carries with him going forward. So in a lot of ways, Devimon, he has a really cool design as well. I think as basically what you would consider a dark angel in a lot of ways, but he does get punked a lot essentially towards the end there as well, which is why I put him at a B tier. And he doesn't do anything super crazy. You could argue Myotismon is more of an A tier monster because he does have also ramifications. But I think as like an initial trauma that the kids do deal with in their first the first arc of Digimon that have had ramifications that continue on into the rest of the series. And him being sort of behind that, even if it's through like as a puppeteer, I think that he's a really interesting monster. He does, especially if you're looking at it from like a childlike, like he would be like the equivalent like of a monster under the bed kind of like fear for most of the series, and then come in and boom, he's just like the actual fear in front of you, and they end up like, you know, defeating it with angel powers. But I would say he's just like a nice, solid B tier monster.
I know nothing about this character, so I would can't really disagree with you when you say B tier. You seem to know a lot.
Me neither.
Nope, I'm fine with B tier.
All right, Caroline.
All right. Because you guys had already filled our document with so many monsters, I have a couple here, and I'm probably going to take from your list as we go on. I got Elias from Ancient Magus Bride, because I really wanted to get some more monstrous people on here, even though he does, you know, takes human form, and he does have legs and arms and stuff like that. But I always thought like he was pretty cool. Like his character design is pretty interesting, and he is such a weird character, especially for a show that can be seen as like a romance show, considering he is like he's not really the romantic lead that everybody wants, especially considering
How in the fuck?
he bought his bride. So
He's a skeleton.
I don't know.
Man.
What?
I just don't get it. I feel the same way about this guy as I do the guy from Overlord. Like, first of all, how you gonna kiss this guy? He's a fucking skeleton, and he's got no dick. He's
How do you know that?
He's a
We
skeleton.
don't know that.
What?
He has arms and legs.
Okay,
Mitch,
well,
it's
and so
literally
does-
called a boner. It's literally called a boner.
Oh, come on. So he has arms and legs as skeletons do, but he's a skeleton everywhere except he just happens to be fleshy and rock hard, but in his groin region.
Well, okay, so I
Magic?
think I'm trying to go back to my first watch of Ancient Magus Bride, because it's been a long time. I think like his original form is actually much more monstrous, and he just transforms himself into this, and he can transform himself into an actual human. So yeah, but in his actual human, in his human form, he is quite handsome.
I just googled does Elias from Ancient Magus Bride have a penis, and I failed to turn off the image search. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot of porn of this guy online, and
Considering how much he can transform himself, I'm sure he can give himself an operating penis.
I have to say I now
This is where the discussion went.
I now agree because of
Operating.
DeviantArt. I now agree with you. So we can move on.
Yeah, so
So where would you rank him?
I feel he is B or C tier.
I feel like he's B personally. I get like he's monsters in the like form and like some of his when he like loses control or things like that. But like he he's not striking fear in me, I guess. And it's like he's not also hitting that sexy vibe like I think of like for
seen his human
Cell.
form.
Oh, Cell is sexy, yeah.
Okay,
See-
we're not talking about Cell anymore. We talked enough about Dragon Ball.
I'm just saying it's hard not to compare the two.
Is he evil in this? Is he a monster in the same way that like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast is? Like he's like the love
I feel like
interest,
he's
but
far more neutral. Like he doesn't really get pissed. He's not really pissed off like the Beast is in Beauty and the Beast, but like he has moments where he loses control over himself.
I never liked Ancient Magus Bride, so I'm okay with the C tier, honestly.
I haven't seen it, but he gives me, like I would actually say Beauty and the Beast vibes in the sense that, but, C tier.
All right.
He's a monster, but...
I feel like there's
Is
better
he?
monsters on this list. So I'm going to give him, I think I'll give him C tier.
Okay. I'm going to move us along a little quicker now because I've been doing a bad job. My next pick is going to be Lucy from Elfen Lied. You'll recall, Lucy, I don't know how many of you guys have seen Elfen Lied, but Lucy is a character that kills a whole lot of people in Elfen Lied and starts off that show with quite an aggressive beginning, like decapitating people just like en masse. She probably kills like 100 people in the first episode. Decapitates
It's so
them.
gruesome.
Yeah, it's one of the most shocking first episodes I think anybody's ever going to see.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean she's super... she is fucking crazy and evil probably, but I don't want to drag it out too long. I would put Lucy just because... Well, if indeed sexiness is a thing, she's definitely qualifying in there to some degree. But she's fucking evil and psychotic, and that anime is gory as fuck. So I would put her probably at a B tier. And now, your thoughts.
I've been willing to bump her up to an A tier personally.
Oh, I'm willing to bump her... Oh, go ahead, Emery.
Oh, no,
Sorry.
just that opening scene, and I'm going to do a quick spoiler for those who haven't seen it yet. One of the scientists' head in that opening scene, she lifts it up and spins it around, and like that is what comes to mind when I think of Lucy, and she's nuts. She is bonkers. I don't know if I can keep her at a B. She really is a monster, and she does meet kind of that evil. She's psychotic. She is sexy, which is weird to say because
She's pretty hot. I would hit it.
Yeah, it's more of like some of that infantileness that's later or kind of wrapped into her character. But yeah, what were you gonna say, Andrew? Though.
Oh, I was gonna bump her down to a D tier personally, just because she does.
What?
Sick.
Yeah.
You don't think she's scary? That woman scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, but she spends literally like 80% of the anime as a child mind.
Okay, but think of like when she goes into that darker setting. Like,
Yeah.
Scarier than a demonic child. Like a
Right?
demonic adult is like, okay.
Oh my God.
That happens. But a child with like the darkest mind is scarier.
All right, fine. You convinced me. C tier.
And I haven't even seen
Can
the
we
show.
at least keep her at like a B? Like
All right,
I can.
I think it
Okay.
averages
Maybe
out to a
bump
B.
It
to be
averages
fair.
out to a B, so I'll put her in a B.
Okay.
She's gonna hang out there with Devimon or whatever the fuck his name was. So
Terrifying. She's terrifying. It was a good pick. Very good pick, Mitz.
Oh, yeah,
Alright.
it is an interesting pick there for sure.
okay, we're back to Emery.
Oh, yes, back to me. Borgod from Princess Mononoke, and I'm thinking specifically of like when he's covered in like the ick, the curse.
Yeah.
I did put him at like a B tier because as we've talked about, especially when it comes to Studio Ghibli films, who's the real monster? Is it the humans or is it like what they have created? So I'm also willing to maybe even bump them down to a C tier, but when I first watched that movie, he spooked me out for a while. Not as much as the deer, but we don't need to talk about the deer. I don't like the deer in Princess Mononoke. So
What?
oh yeah, I
That's
hate
like the
You don't
earth
like it.
itself.
You don't like Yakul?
I like you cool. Sorry, I like the jumping one. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm talking about this forest god. I don't
Oh,
like
the forest god. Okay, yeah.
I don't like him with his creepy goat eyes, his stare. Don't like that forest spirit at all. But that didn't really fit for me under the monster theme. Borgod did. So
So the boar like I don't think of as a monster because he was being possessed by demonic forces or whatever. So
By
because
hate.
I just don't think of him as monstrous really.
So
How
D
Tyler do we
tier? Are
do
you
a
saying
C
D
or
tier?
D?
I would say C. I think that he's just a rage monster in a lot of ways. Ooh, see what I did there?
I could say
And
Yeah.
I could say a C also. I mean,
yeah,
Okay.
but
Okay, I could
he
agree
gets
with
that.
that.
I would say not D only because of that like really creepy. Like he has like a really interesting aesthetic
Okay,
that
yeah, I'll
really
give him
works
that.
out for C
Yeah.
tier. But he doesn't do enough, and it's not like he's not like also trying to psychologically mind fuck you, which I think does maybe play a bit into why I think it makes an S tier.
all right, Andrew, you're up.
Oh.
Okay, so um, ooh, this is. You know what? I want to get to this one. Let's go with Griffith from Berserk. Because I know you put a different person. Oh, you put Bastard. I thought you put someone from Berserk Mitts, and so I'm like, that's not the
I
person
did.
from Berserk you're
I,
putting.
I,
Oh,
He did.
okay.
I did, but I
Yeah.
put so we'll just combine them both. I put the whole God
Okay.
hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
but like really the embodiment of that is Griffith. And let's just say he's an S tier monster. Part of the reason is because he trigger warnings a character at some point. I'm not, for a thing that he does that's really terrible. But he's like that kind of thing. Like he is the embodiment in that universe of beauty in a lot of ways. But his soul is so dark and blackened, and he just does horrific things in the name of his own self-serving interests, which makes him quite monstrous. And he eventually doesn't get a monstrous form until the main arc of the first main arc of the story, like the Golden Age, until the end of the Golden Age arc. But and then after that, he does even crazier things if you go into like the manga and whatnot. But he still pretends to be this like beautiful, like holy person, holier than thou. And I think he's just like this terrible person, terrible and like monster in like the all the bad senses of humanity. But he's also kind of sexy. I can't like he is the embodiment of beauty for that universe, and I can't blame him for that. So, but I would honestly put him like for some of the crazy, like terrible things he does to people he ostensibly called his best friends. I would put him as an S tier kind of monster for a lot of those reasons. Also, because he like psychologically fucks with a lot of those people as well. So that I think that adds to that S tier rating.
Berserk, shockingly, one that I haven't really dove into, so I'll have to leave it in your hands.
I'm not really all that well versed on Berserk beyond the anime. I haven't read the manga, and I did see the sequel of Berserk, unfortunately, the second season or whatever. But Griffith never really. I mean, yeah. I mean, my perspective of him is that he's more of like a pretty boy soldier politician for most of that season, as because I haven't read the manga and I don't know all the stuff he does. After that, so. If Andrew thinks he's an S tier, I guess I can go with that. Simply because I don't have like the breadth of knowledge, so I have to defer. But I only have the God Hand photo on here, so we're gonna have to go with that. But I assume that they're all probably they're all part of the hand or whatever. So, so you're saying S tier?
I mean, if not any of you have seen it, I would argue we could put it down at an A tier. I feel like S tier should have at least more than one person's consensus on it, I think,
Okay.
as well. So I would say we can move him
Sounds
down
like
to an A
Sal's
tier because
gonna
there's
move
nobody
on
else
up.
that consents with it.
I'll put him in front of Cell.
I was gonna
Oh,
say
yeah.
it sounds like Cell is gonna likely move on up.
Mm.
All right.
So this next one, I think it could also be like a duo here because I want to talk about Satan from Devilman Crybaby, and I see on your list, Mitz, that you have the Devilman himself, but I feel like Satan is definitely more monstrous than even Devilman because, like, looking back at Devilman Crybaby, there's nothing scarier than biblical horror, like I know, and he's like an angel, but the wings and his like strangely serene face, the bright yellow, like it's giving like it's supposed to be good, but the horrors that Lucifer unleashes in Devilman Crybaby, it's just that combination is just so chilling. Thoughts?
I can't remember very well all the stuff this guy does. I had Devilman on the list because he's a classic, a classic monster character, But
Yes.
but
I
yeah,
do think
can't,
Satan takes the cake, though.
Yeah, I can't remember
Satan
all
always
of it.
takes the cake.
There are some very frightening cosplays on here I could show pictures of.
Sorry, I
People-
just added that to the list. I know you had some pictures. Oh, right. You already have this all like set up, so I kind of threw this in there. So if it kind of f's up the process we have here, we can skip.
Well, we could just place like Devilman in there and just call it like the monsters from Devilman. I mean, I don't know. To me, it's
I can agree with
probably
that.
to me it's probably like man, I don't even know. Honestly, it's probably B in the B range. I mean, I don't know. I'm not really sure.
I was thinking A or S, to be honest.
I mean,
Maybe I'm also conflating it with like how the anime overall was, so that's why I would give it S. But
I mean, if I had to make an argument against an S, it's just that like Satan is such a small, he's in that anime for such a small amount of time, and like doesn't really seem to be very prominent until like towards the end of that show. I mean, I know there's like spoilers and stuff like that, but like there are other characters on here that are, like Ryuk is so iconic, for example, and the Berserk manga is so big, and there's so much of like Griffith in there, and Cell is so iconic, and Satan just seems like he may be evil, but he's just kind of a small character in a property that's not really nearly as big as these others. So I don't know if I could put him on an S tier. Like he's nowhere near like as noteworthy as like a Ryuk, for example. But I can put them in here. I can put them in here. Yeah, I mean I can put them in here.
Lower.
Anybody else have an opinion?
Lower
How
A
low
tier,
would you
upper
say?
B tier.
Yeah.
Because he does do some crazy things, especially at the end there. But I would say, like, if he's on the A tier, it'd be at the back. Like, we would be putting other A tier things in front of him. But I
Okay.
would say he's at the precipice of upper B tier or lower A tier.
Emery,
I'll
what do you
take
think?
it.
I think lower A tier as well, but you know what? The more we've talked about it, especially since we're combining the two, I think let's put him at the front of B.
I kind of agree with that. And I hate to put everybody in the A tier. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of it. Is we've already got a decent amount of people in A.
all right. So I'm gonna move on quickly.
Yep.
So the next one I'm gonna say is gonna be Anthrasax from Bastard. Just like I don't know who of you. I know Caroline watched Bastard, but Anthrasax is basically just the being that destroys the world or whatever, and it's what they're fighting against the entire show, and it's just like a wild fucking crazy like evil god that just wants to destroy the world, the god of destruction or whatever, and it has a very creepy face, and it has a lot of like really wild forms like this, as you can see. So I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time. I could probably see Anthrasax is in here for flavor, and I could put it like in the B or the C tier, easily.
I would agree with that. 'Cause we barely
I'd say
see
C
it.
tier.
It doesn't really do anything until the end of season 2.
That was kind of my thought. Is a spooky concept, but like I don't know if they'd been like in it a little bit more, maybe. But C tier.
All right, we'll put him at the bottom, and we're back to Lady Emery.
Oh my gosh. Who do we have from me still left? Oh, let's quickly do the Smiling Titan. This for me was S tier, but now I'm rethinking it because of Andrew's talk on like psychological like warfare, and I mean Attack on Titan in general has that going on, but I don't feel like the Smiling Titan is doing that. So
I don't know. When I think about... Sorry,
Wait,
I should let you continue.
No, go ahead.
Like when I think about the first episode, what really what stands out in the first episode is the smiling Titan staring down. Like, that is such a major part of, like, the first episode. And, spoilers, it does come back at some point in the story. Right. And also what the smiling Titan represents. Again, spoilers. If you know, you know. It's such an, like, the foreshadowing that plays as well. I'm strong on a high rating for the smiling Titan.
Okay.
I'm thinking a B.
I also think a B for that. It has iconic punch.
Right.
And I think it's like one of those things as it like when I go back to something like Goblin Slayer, that first episode kind of ruins the rest of the show for me, right? But here with the Smiling Titan, it's a great iconic moment that almost sets up more than I think the rest of Attack on Titan kind of delivers in a weird way, if you ask me, for that first season. So I feel like it sets up
okay.
I mean, I think it sets up a really interesting stake and kind of horror that Attack on Titan like never kind of reaches again, at least in that first season.
For me, I think the Titans in Attack on Titan are so they're so prominent that they cease to be really scary at all by season 2. Like they're not. They may be monsters, they may be iconic, but as far as like a horror element, I don't think Attack on Titan was really scary past like maybe even the halfway point of season 1. I mean, they're literally
each
everywhere.
season has a different flavor, Like first season is a horror, second season is but like I forget how it gets, like somebody pointed it out and I forget how exactly it goes, but then it gets into like political drama, then a human horror. But I would agree with that. First season,
I'm fine. I'm fine with tier, like a B tier.
Okay.
I'm cool with that.
Because I would say if you think it's
high,
high
for A, but
I would say if you think if you were gonna say S and B, I would say we would put it low A, but I would say upper B honestly. Like I would say I would put it at the high end of.
I'm barely in the B tier honestly. Like, I mean, I can't put like if any Titan made this list, it would be the Giant Titan, for me at least.
The Colossal.
Really not that scary though.
I don't think any of them are scary.
No, actually, I would put the Smiling Titan over the Giant Titan. The Giant Titan gets punked like a bitch, and you kind of realize its backstory, and you kind of go, ugh. But the Smiling Titan is, I think, more interesting as a monster aspect because it's just so natural and visceral, and that's all I'm gonna say because I don't want to go on for too long.
I think that like
Right.
yeah. All right. I believe it was now it's Andrew's turn.
Oh, it is me. I get to talk some more. Okay, perfect. Okay. I also want, you know what? So I feel like I'm getting into a theme here. Okay. And I'm going to choose Lust from Full Metal Alchemist, and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. But I tend to err more towards Full Metal Alchemist, the first series version, because they get a little bit more characterization, and I think so they get this like element of trauma that's added onto it, and I think their death scene in the first episode is also like this crazy like body horror experience as well. And what makes Lust so interesting is because in a way she's like the embodiment of that sin in itself. And she just kind of goes around and like kills people. She is not an S tier monster in any way, shape, or form, but it just really like she plays into that trope of like the femme fatale, the Black Widow, like she'll kill you and you'll love every second of it because you're just that horny, I guess. But I would say like in terms of like characterization, in terms of like evil ability, monster ability, she never really goes into like this grotesque form, which I don't think is always like required of a monster, and she represents what is really the true monster, and what all of these monsters really represent is facets of humanity in a lot of ways, and I think she's a good representation of that. But I would argue only like low A tier, but I would be perfectly fine with just a B tier because I feel like she doesn't do too many crazy things, but the way she just kind of fucks with the Elric brothers as well, I would say like she's like a solid B tier monster.
I can't really weigh in. I'm not that experienced with this.
I mean, it's been a while since I've seen Full Metal Alchemist, but I don't know. She didn't really leave that major of an impression on me. I did watch Brotherhood, so that's a different story. But I don't know. I feel like she's probably more of a C tier in my heart. You know.
I'm with
Tiebreaker
Caroline. C tier was for
okay.
me. It's just where I fell with her.
All right. We don't have much time here.
Okay.
So
Speedrun it.
Caroline, you got one more though. You can go. We can go. I mean, I think you have one more.
Okay. I'm gonna steal from Frigimon's list. Actually, I want to talk about Orochimaru from Naruto
Oh.
because he's probably like the weirdest part of Naruto, like the weirdest character design. He's like borderline a pedophile, definitely sexualized.
He's not
Sometimes
borderline
a woman,
pedophile.
sometimes a man, sometimes a snake, sometimes a whatever in between. And definitely one of the more memorable villains in Naruto, and there are quite a few. So I feel like Orochimaru is probably an A for me, at least.
And we're thinking just Naruto. We are not going to go further down the rabbit hole for like
What, you mean like
other-
Boruto?
Maybe, yeah.
Where he practically becomes like a housewife or something. It's so weird.
Oh man, I mean that's
Oof. I was gonna
That's
put him
why,
in S
like,
tier.
you can see, like, why I'm wincing. It's like, yeah, you're talking like straight Naruto. Yeah.
Nobody
like, I
watches
think-
people watch Boruto, but
Some
when
people
they think
do.
Orochimaru, they don't think about what happens in Boruto.
Wait, nobody's
I mean, I
watching
kinda
Boruto's
did.
dad's son.
I don't know. I don't think Orochimaru is very cool. I mean, he might be iconic, but he's not very cool. He doesn't look very cool either. So I'd probably put him in a B.
What do you guys
Oh, I
think?
say A tier. I would have said S tier just because he's not borderline a pedo. He's just a pedo.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like, there's no
I was giving
borderline
him too
about
much
it. And he does some crazy things, and he kind of like really like he does a. I think he's like one of the greatest monsters that exists, just a straight up pedo. Yeah. But we can go with
stick him in. No, I think we can stick him in
tier.
A tier. I do think we need a. I'm gonna fight now for this one, even though I was against it originally. I think we have to bump Cell to S tier. We need somebody in the S tier before we
I have
like,
an S
end
tier
the segment.
suggestion. I have an S tier suggestion from that one we
Okay.
haven't said yet. Nezuko is an S tier monster. You
She
know
is
why?
not.
What?
She is the greatest monster
What?
that exists. The little sister trope.
Oh, how about a Moe girl? We're about to talk about a bunch of those later. I mean, so the remaining ones are the monster from Count 'em. Let's see, are any of these S tier? Real quick.
Sephiroth, I'd argue, is S tier, but I'm
The
thinking
Count of-
Sephiroth mainly from the games. But I think Sephiroth is an S tier villain.
The remaining icons on here are the Count of Monte Cristo. I think we can agree he's not S tier.
Definitely not.
Denji from Chainsaw Man, and he's cool, but he's not an S tier. I don't know. Anybody disagree with that?
No.
No, I don't disagree.
Gendo Ikari, who's an asshole, but I don't know if he's barely not even a monster. He's human.
He's the greatest monster of all, human.
The Hollows from Bleach, which Lady Emery already said was a D tier. The Man-Eaters from Heavenly Delusions, which Lady Emery had in an A tier. The hell character is this? Mocha from Rosario plus Vampire, S tier fuckable, but I don't know.
Brew S fuckable.
Nezuko, who we just joked about, Migi and Shinichi from Parasite, Sephiroth, Toguro from Yu Hakusho, Pluto from Pluto, and then what the hell is this last character? Ryomen Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen. So I don't know. Does anybody feel any of those are S tier?
Really?
All right, fine. We'll move Cell up. I agree with Lady Emery. Though I still think Nezuko should be there in S tier.
I love Nezuko, but like I can't move her into an S tier because she's so darling to me.
I feel like we just failed to find the ultimate
You
monster.
fall into her trip.
I don't know who the ultimate monster is. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we failed to find it.
Well, actually, I think
Monster
that brings on an
guide us
interesting
all
discussion.
along.
Well, I mean, like the conversation I said in chat, right? I don't think, I think we don't, Japanese. The Japanese people in general tend to go for monsters in the more traditional Western sense, right? We're not looking at like all the typical horror things. We're not getting any Freddy Kruegers. We're not getting any Jasons from Friday the 13th. We're not getting a lot of that, the aliens from Aliens, right?
You know what
We're not getting that kind of stuff.
That we never mentioned once in this whole topic. Godzilla.
What?
Godzilla's not a monster. He defends.
Yes, he is.
He's the king of monsters.
In most of
He's
the
a monster.
but in most of the content of Godzilla, he's a good guy. He's defending the Earth.
He's still a monster.
In the most of it, yes, but you know what? Godzilla S tier monster. He is the best.
Who's sexier than Godzilla?
I don't have an
was gonna
icon for Godzilla.
It's fine. Godzilla is our S. Caroline,
Oh my gosh.
why didn't you write that on the document?
Because
completely
I
didn't
thought that would be too obvious.
Well, no, I wasn't thinking of live. So actually, in live action, yeah, there's a lot of Japanese monsters. I was thinking anime, and I guess there is a Godzilla anime. But,
Yeah.
you know, Godzilla King of Monsters S rank, triple S rank monster.
Whoa.
Boom! We did it, guys.
All right. Well, I wish we had time to go through all the rest of these. I'm just going to kind of arbitrarily throw them on the tier ranker where I think you guys would probably put them, but it kind of doesn't matter. So, all right. Well, we got so much more to get to in the show, and we're running a little long as usual. So, why don't Caroline? Why don't you get us out of here, and we'll do the news, and then we'll come back and wrap up the show.
All right. In the show, Train to the End of the World, what is the fruit that our main protagonists travel with? We'll give you the answer after the news break.
Hey, Anime Addicts, this is me, Tsugi, and just as we do every week, it's time for your anime news. Getting us started off, we have some manga that are ending. It looks like, surprisingly to me at least, the Oshinoko manga is going to be ending in only 4 chapters. Shueisha announced on Thursday that Akasaka and Mango Yoko Yadi's Oshinoko, it's going to be ending in the 50th issue of Young Jump magazine. That's going to be coming out right around the middle of November, on November 14th. So that's, well, probably bad news for fans of the manga, but I'm guessing if you're a big fan, you knew it was coming anyway. Akasaka and Yoko Yadi began serializing this in April of 2020. It looks like there's 18 million copies in print of the property, making it a pretty successful manga, and of course, you still have the anime running, so we have more to look forward to there. And also, the other manga that is concluding, Orient, is concluding a 6-year serialization. Otaka began drawing this fantasy action manga in Weekly Shonen magazine clear back in 2018, approximately 7 months after ending Magi. So people will probably remember Magi because that was also a pretty big hit. So it looks like the manga switched to Beisetsu Shonen magazine a little bit later in 2021, etc., etc. So if you're a fan of Orient, it is also going to be concluding, and there are also some anime properties of this as well, so you can check that out also. Next up, in some sad news, Doraemon's voice actress Nobuyo Oyama has passed away at age 90. Which is a pretty big loss in the anime community. It doesn't seem like she was really active as Doraemon's voice recently, but at least a legend has passed away. So it looks like she wasn't doing too well right around the end, and she had already survived a lot of health problems, including cancer and also a stroke, but made it all the way to 90, so we thank Nobuyo Oyama for her great work bringing the character of Doraemon to life for everybody around the world. And lastly, in some business news, Studio Pierrot and Asahi Productions have signed a strategic partnership agreement. They say that they have entered into a business partnership aimed at enhancing their ability to collaborate to make higher quality anime. It was a strategic move to combine their respective strengths in the production and the animation production process. Under the agreement, both companies will collaborate on joint projects and share resources, including personnel, with the goal of having a more robust and stable, high-quality content creation process. So for those of you that like these companies, well, it just looks like they're going to be making even better anime because of this partnership, and who knows, maybe we'll see other studios do the same in the future as well. This was Mitsugi, and this was your anime news break, and now it's time to get back to the podcast. Every day, Pancake is abused, beaten, and neglected by being forced to go to work.
No, Mitsuki, don't make me go.
She's crying out for help. Her syrup, it's dry.
It's so dry.
Please go to AAAPodcast.com/join or Patreon and join the Anime Addicts with a monthly gift. Don't wait. For just 22 cents a day, you could help rescue a pancake from a life of doing things. Act now within the next 30 minutes, and you'll receive a welcome package of hentai episodes, hobby addicts, and after parties during which a pancake may appear. Given a second chance at life, Pancake may even appear on this very podcast thanks to you. So help make Pancake the Anime Addicts Anonymous sugar baby by going to AAAPodcast.com/join or Patreon right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
There is a pancake who needs you. You can say, I'm here to help.
Hi, this is Brina Palencia, voice of Rei Ayanami, and I'm an anime addict. And then she cries.
Most dangerous! When we left you, we had a trivia question. In the show Train to the End of the World, what is the fruit that our main protagonists travel with? It's a bitter melon. What the hell is that?
Yeah, I was wondering if that's a real fruit or not.
It doesn't sound...
It is a real one.
Have you eaten it?
No, I had to look it up though.
All right. And glad to be back to the show. Real quick, let's not delay too long. It's time for mailbags.
It's time for an almighty anime mailbag. Anime.
Mailbag. Bag. Andrew?
Reading this.
Oh, was it me? Okay. All right. Mailbag. Wait, are we? Is that the 5-star review, or is that actually a mailbag?
It's just mailbag, man.
But which one do I read? The first one or the second one?
The first one.
One man.
Okay, I don't know. There's no question in it. That's why I'm asking. Anyway, this one comes from Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer, for submitting this mailbag. Hey guys, I found your podcast 4 months ago, and my anime addiction has definitely gotten worse since then. I am currently listening to the old podcast, and Pope Mitsuki has gotten me addicted to Orange Monster. Or Orange Monster.
What?
Also, I love Mason's unexplored pictures. Keep it up, guys. That feels like a 5-star review and not an actual mailbag.
Well, maybe it is.
People
But...
give
it was a mailbag.
They don't have to have a question.
Right.
Okay.
I'll own this one. I picked this one because the whole point of Monster tiering came from us talking about Monster, and I just wanted to give Jennifer props because, as I've been told by my waifu, Pancake, Orange is supreme, I guess. So, I figured just a quick little shout out for her. So, thanks for the mailbag, but Yeah. Mitsuki, any thoughts on the orange monster?
Yeah, actually, so we actually have you can look up what the most popular monsters are. They rank them online. Monster does by sales, and Orange Monster is unfortunately not even in the top 10. The only ones that I drink that are in the top 10 are the watermelon. The other popular ones are the only other one that's sugar free that is in the top 10 sometimes is the green one. So the most popular sugar-free monsters are the green one and the watermelon one, and that's just the facts. But like everything else is like people love the fruit juice ones, like the ones that have like 100 sugars. People are all about that.
Sugar is great.
Yeah.
I think why orange might not end up there, which is kind of funny, is because I was grocery shopping with a friend the other day, and he was looking for a different energy drink, and I saw the Monster Island. It just might be what ends up in grocery stores more often are just not that orange. That's probably why it's pretty low on the list. And I feel like you get those mostly out of like specialty shops, which would explain why
most gas stations have them. We get them at gas stations. I mean, the orange one is good. It's really good, but I don't know. It's not one of the top 10.
You see, I've never had Monster before, so here's a question for you guys. Is Monster actually good, or are you just addicted to it?
It's good. I mean, we're talking like multi-billion dollars of sales a year in drinks.
Because people are addicted to energy drinks.
Oh yeah, it's totally an addiction thing.
I mean, it's probably an addiction too, but I mean, it's not really any different than Red Bull or coffee or tea or anything else that has caffeine in it. So
if fair, yeah, I would say depends on how much you drink. So I mean,
why don't you buy one? Buy some in town. Why don't you buy some, Caroline, and tell us about it? See, maybe you'll like it.
Offering somebody who's never smoked a cigarette, Mitz. I am not.
No,
it's
not a cigarette. It's just an energy drink.
It's not the same. It's not the same. It is and it isn't, but it's not the same.
I don't need those chemicals. Good. I'm perfectly fine with Coca-Cola.
Yeah, same here. I love it. Coke is the best. All right, we're going to end up on a whole discussion tangent, and we should probably review this anime, or do we want to go to the next question?
We have another mailbag. Yotaru Vegeta writes, Hey, AAA, is Black Clover the most unfairly maligned shonen? Personally, I never went back after Screaming Asta was a meme, and that was barely anywhere into the first season, and yet the series went on and has its fans. I can debunk this real quick. The anime has 170 episodes, so it's pretty long running. It has 1.7 million people have viewed this anime on my anime list, and almost 1 million have reviewed it, and it has an 8.2. So, and I also met somebody literally like 2 days ago that said this was their favorite anime of all time. So I actually think this anime is fucking popular as shit. And regardless of what we think about it or the screaming or whatever, I think Black Clover is like a powerhouse. It's a low key like beast. I don't know how you guys feel, but that's how I feel about it.
I feel like the question is more like, does it have an unfair opinion, public opinion on this show?
It has on this show?
Yeah. Unfair public opinion, like not the fans. I'm talking like anime viewers as a whole. They shit on Black Clover all the time. But the fans love it. Of course it does. It has fans.
I mean,
but me personally, I did read a bit of Black Clover before the anime came out. Like I saw it, when I was reading something else. I'm like, oh, this is apparently pretty popular. Let me give it a try. I didn't get into it because it's pretty tropey shonen, and not to say I haven't not enjoyed tropey shonen. Like I've did all Naruto, but the thing is that there was no hook that kept me interested in it despite the tropes. So in my opinion, I don't think the screaming is the only factor that fans might have been turned off from it. But I did hear it gets good after, the point that I stopped. So, yeah.
Since you're the most positive, Lady Emery, I will let you end this conversation. But I'll go first. Next.
Yeah, go
so I say probably. And I would argue that you should put your stronger material first in a shonen show because you want to get people in and you want to go for long, right? Like if you look at Naruto, that first episode is a very strong first episode. You look at Bleach, that's a really good first episode. One Piece, these are all like really interesting things that happen in the first episode that make you want to go more into the world. Screaming Asta was definitely a thing in that first episode. It did not endear me to wanting to watch more. And even though it has a really cool ending to that first episode with like him pulling out whatever his book sword or whatever, the Black Star book, or I forget how the world works, is a cool ending. I was pretty much like, I'm good, right? But I've seen fight scenes on random TikToks and whatnot come up, and they look really good. Like those shonen shows get really good animated fight sequences. So is it unfairly maligned people? I'd say probably, but like you didn't put your strongest foot forward, I feel like. So that's why I'm sort of like at a probably, but kind of answer.
All right. Well, if you guys want, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just make mine quick. I like Black Clover. I get that he screams a lot. It is very shonen-y. There's a show called Shonen Showdown. It's a podcast that people should probably go listen to.
Wow.
And
amazing.
happy to just take that energy, the Black Clover energy, and move it over there for an episode. So I think give it a try. Otherwise, it's okay. It's fine if you don't like it.
All right. Well, let's move on then to our review for today. We're going to be doing a review of Train to the End of the World and to the end of this podcast, actually, which is very funny. So, at least I thought so. This is a spring 2024 anime, and it was a listener choice pick. So we let people pick anime every season. So the listeners picked 3 shows for us to review, and this was one of those. This is on Crunchyroll. So I watched it on Crunchyroll. I watched it subbed. There is no dub. I wish there was, but there's not. The synopsis basically is that there's a 7G network technology that gets released, and I assume it's like a spoof on like cell towers or something. We're like jumping ahead. Now we're on 7G. It's like, oh, it's like that SNL skit about the razor blades and the razor blade that has like 14 blades. It's like now, and then the 15th blade comes in and takes just the top layer of skin. And now we're on 7G. So they activate the 7G technology, and it basically just plunges Japan into total chaos, like goofy chaos. Cities, people turn into animals. Buildings are turning into like giant mushrooms, like whatever the hell. It's just goofy. 4 girls travel to Ikebukuro on a train car to find their friend Yoka and encounter a lot of weird stuff along the way. I wrote that synopsis. So that's kind of how I viewed it. Directed by Mizushima Tsutomu, who has done a lot of garbage and then one good show. He did Witchcraft Works, which I don't think anybody liked. Blood Sea, which was, to me, terrible. But he did do Shirobako. So there's a lot of bad stuff he's reviewed in his catalog, but Shirobako everyone seems to like. Studio EMT Squared. I don't know why we continue to watch shows from EMT Squared. It is probably one of the worst studios out there. I mean, this is literally the highest rated show that they have in their catalog at a 7.4. And they've got a bunch of shows, but like they're all like in the 6s. Like no one seems to like them. So I don't know, but and this is an original anime. EMT Squared seems to do a lot of original stuff, so at least they try. Let's start with Caroline. Caroline, what were your thoughts going into? What were your expectations about this anime going in?
Well, I believe Mason talked about it during Impressions, and I thought the premise was pretty interesting. I know he didn't pass it in the end, but it seemed like he still had some good feelings for it when he failed it. So I was going in with some fair expectations. And I watched the first episode and I thought that was like pretty good. But then I saw the overall score on my anime list and I'm like, okay, so it doesn't quite hold up throughout the show. So those were my general expectations.
Oh, okay. How about you, Lady Emery? Let's ladies first today.
Oh, how nice.
Of course.
I heard about this back when it was airing, only minor things. So I honestly didn't know what I was going to be getting into other than everything is not what it seems, which is true. I feel like that did hold up, and obviously we can get more into it during the spoilers, but it's kind of that simple for me.
Okay. And how about you, Andrew?
I didn't know anything about this before. I'm like, oh, we're reviewing it this week. So I saw the image and I'm like, oh, it's just going to be cute girls doing cute things in anime. And so I kind of like went in with that kind of expectation. I didn't know anything else about it going forward for it other than we were just reviewing it. And so that's where I was just like, okay, cute girls doing cute things. And someone said, you might like it. And I'm just like, okay, I'm excited. And then, yeah, things happened.
So for me, I really didn't know anything about this. I saw the characters, and I kind of thought the same thing that Andrew thought. I was like, oh, it's just going to be cute girls romping around doing whatever they do. But I didn't know anything about the story. I really try not to get involved in the stories ahead of time. Half the time I know what they are anyway, because they're either sequels or they're remakes, or I did the impression to begin with, etc. But this was one of those ones that like was off my radar completely, and we're only really reviewing it here because of the listeners. So. That being said, let's start with Caroline. Caroline, how do you feel about this anime? What are your thoughts before we get into spoilers? Would you recommend this?
I'm kind of mixed, honestly, because I found the journey through the world pretty interesting. Like, it was fun, and each, stop on the way was unique, and, traveling on a real-life train route, I thought that was pretty cool. Generally, I like the main cast and their interactions, though honestly, they sometimes make me question if they are actually friends. And one of those relationships kind of gets ironed out pretty early on, like the two girls that are at each other's throats. It's like one of those friendships where, you're just so different, but you balance each other out, and even though you bicker all the time, you are probably the closest amongst the group. So, I like that. The villain, silly, and like just one-dimensional villain who doesn't no evil mastermind behind it, and it's just didn't really love that. The ending conflict didn't wow me. There were some moments of Deus Ex Machina, especially with the zombies. Towards the end of the show, once zombies got involved, it's like any issue they had, somehow the zombies played a role in it and just fixed everything. It's just strange like that. And, I'm also, a nitpicker for, in-show logic. So that's unfortunate when they mention how, in the show, they mention how minuscule the chances are of finding a particular person in this gigantic, wild landscape that's also extremely dangerous. And yet they continuously find particular people time and time again. But they even mention how minuscule the chances of that are. So they just go against their own logic here. And it's also the girls, they're extremely slow on the uptake. I know they're high school girls, but they require so many clues to come to simple conclusions in this show. The viewer has already figured out what's going on long before they have. And sometimes when they come to the conclusions, I'm like, wait a minute, so you guys didn't come to that conclusion before this point? And so it's like that. Overall, I thought the show had a lot of interesting ideas, but the execution and the pacing could be better. And I don't know if anybody absolutely loves this show. They either did not like it or they had pretty mixed feelings towards it. So it's kind of hard to recommend, but it does have some moments of it being pretty good, in my opinion.
All right, it's ladies first. Lady Emery, no pressure.
Yeah, I will say no, but my reasoning I think is maybe a little bit different. My concern was the lost messaging throughout the show, because it is fun for these kinds of shows to see, well, what are they getting at? What is the end result or the philosophy of the writer for this kind of a show? And I feel like there are shows that want to explore this sort of Alice in Wonderland esque trope, maybe is a good way of putting it, or environment setting. What comes to mind is Flip Flappers or Koisosogagi. I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but Flip Flappers is one of my main ones that I will go to. And I love Alice in Wonderland, one of my all-time favorite books. I did not feel that it met that. I feel like it got lost in its messaging, and we already hit on the same criticism that Caroline had for the villain. Very one-dimensional. I love a villain that is a little more complex, that shows maybe humanity or shows like what led them down the path of villainy. None of that here, so that was frustrating. That said, I still think I'm coming out higher than everyone else on the podcast.
Oh, you don't know that.
But that's true. I don't know. I don't know where Andrew came out on this, but
You don't know where I came out?
We'll see.
Oh, okay.
He knows where you came
You're
out.
right.
Woo! Okay.
I didn't write notes, that's why.
You do not bury the lead, Mitz.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I'm going to wait and be blown away by Mitz giving this a 5 out of 5 being his anime of the year.
It could be. It could be.
Okay, let's
All
not
right.
lie. It's...
Yeah, so for me, it's a no for me, but it was a good try. It was a good try.
Andrew, you're up.
All right. So you were talking about because Lady Emery brought up how people took the show. So I just went quickly to my anime list to look at the recommended section to see what it was like, and people who like it obviously like it and whatnot. But I'm gonna take this one line I think that describes, I guess, how I feel about the show and recommendation. So this is from Zed Note Taku. And their recommendation on the My Anime List page for this. Director Mizushima Tsutomu isn't concerned with making the next hit. If anything, he's concerned with making the next concoction. And I think that accurately describes what this show is in a lot of ways. It is just like a grab bag of many different things. There's some really interesting things that are done in the show, and there's a lot of really not interesting things done with the show. To just be devil's advocate here. And I think a lot of it stems from pacing. I think that and I was making jokes about this in our discussion part of the forum briefly amongst our group chat. And I was saying this feels like a poor man's Kino's journey is what it felt like what they were going for, but I feel like that's insulting to a poor man's Kino journey in some ways, because it feels like you're supposed to learn something more about this world and the people, or whenever you go to these different stops, and that's like you get from the first impression when you like the first stop they really go to. You get this like, oh, they're trying to do this like Kino's journey kind of thing. Not very well, but I can see what they're going for. So like each stop they go to, they're going to learn some interesting life lesson about the world and maybe about themselves at the same time, which is not, it kind of happens, but a lot of it happens in between stops, their character development, which is kind of like defeats the Kino's journey-esque like storytelling. And I'm using that as my closest representation. Kino's journey-esque storytelling journey that they're trying to tell, or story that they're trying to tell. So would I recommend it? Not really, unless you have really nothing else to watch. But as far as like the show goes, it was okay in my opinion. I didn't hate my entire time watching it, but I just wasn't feeling compelled to watch more of it because, it just was like not a lot was happening, even though lots of things were happening. It felt like
this. People need to realize that in Japan there is a thing called train otaku. This is how I view this anime. Densha otaku, they call them. These are people that the whole train thing in Japan is a very prominent and permeating theme because train riding is such a massive part of Japanese life. Maybe more than any other country. I mean, Japan has really made it so you can reach almost anywhere in the country with trains. You know, like we'll say, oh, New York has trains, but does New York State have trains to every single
really.
to practically every street? I doubt it.
No.
Does Chicago have trains that go hundreds of miles into the suburbs where hardly anybody lives? No, probably not. So we have trains, but they're like, oh, there's subway trains in the dense populated areas of the cities and maybe to like airports and stuff like that. But Japan is a whole other thing. To me, my unique take on this show, and maybe it's probably not unique amongst the greater audience, but this is just my special thought is this guy's basically created a setup to sort of embellish the fact that when you get on a train in Japan, that each train line has many stops on it and they're numbered. They'll have like, Yamanote Y1, Y2, Y3, and they each have their own names. And then supposedly, and probably less likely in rural, more rural or suburban areas, each train stop is supposed to be different in some way or another. Now, if you're in Tokyo and you get off at Shibuya, you're going to have the giant street crossing with the famous Starbucks and the Hachiko statue and all the tourists walking across the street with their cell phones up in the air so you can see how many people there are. You go down a couple more and you're at Shinjuku and you're seeing lots of like neon signs, lots of shopping, lots of just everything. You go to Akihabara and you're in the electric town. Oh my God, the electric town. You go to Ueno and it's residential. Takadanobaba, residential. And it's like all these places have their own thing. I kind of view this anime as being like that. It's definitely trying to be Kino's Journey in some way. Like, it's every train stop has this philosophical sort of thing to it. But to me, it's more about like this guy's just trying to like, because they're literally taking the train line down the line, stopping every fucking... I don't know why they stop at every friggin' station.
I 100% agree.
It's
because... like, with how dangerous everything is, what are you stopping for?
Yeah, it's exactly. Because he's trying to show that, like, in Japan, every train stop has its own unique flair, its own personality. Even though when you get outside of Tokyo, for the most part, they're mostly just, like, residential areas. But this anime... while that sounds interesting, it was not really for me. So there's a couple reasons for this. One, it's very immature and silly. Like, you really have to be down for, like, just goofy shit all the time. And this anime is probably best suited for, like, as young as 10 years old. Like, because it's, like, a bunch of 14-year-old girls running around with, like, ditzy hair and all this. While the dumbest stuff imaginable just happens. Like, people turning into talking, like, raccoons and... people with mushrooms growing out of their heads for no reasons, diabolical villains that are insanely goofy and tie them to like the tops of little tiny helicopters like Gulliver's Travels or some shit. Goofy, completely harmless zombies. I mean, there's just like a bunch of goofy stuff in this show that makes it feel like it's just too immature and meant for an audience that's just not me. I'm almost 40, so I mean, like and even if I was 20, like, am I really supposed to be identifying with, like, little girls? I don't know. Do whatever you want, but, like, that's just me. But this anime is also super episodic. I mean, I kept waiting for the story to, like, kick in, but this anime, I shit you not, you could probably get away with watching, like, 3 total episodes of this, and you'd be fine. Because there's not much narrative going on. It's kind of, like... we're just going to stop and, there might be like one plot point that persists, but mostly not. Like, does it really matter where they got the map from? Like, no, not really. You could just pretty much fast forward from like, you probably could get away with watching episodes 1, 11, and 12 and call it a day. If you really had to get just the gist of the show. I mean, I think that pretty much fucking covers it, to be honest. Like, and so... it was just kind of boring, like, and it wasn't dubbed, and it's just like so much talking, and it's little girls talking about nonsense on this train. Like they're literally gabbing about like school uniforms and lunch and all this other dogs and things. It's like, I don't really fucking care. I mean, like, they are little kids talking about little kid shit. Like, I don't know. And so it's just a lot of reading about like stuff I don't give a shit about. And it was just pretty tough. But so all in all, yeah, I don't think I'd recommend it. Like, honestly, there's probably nobody I'd recommend this to. It's not like egregiously horrific, but it is just intensely silly. And if you wanted to watch a show about like surface level philosophies of different places, you got to just go watch Kino's Journey. And there's other shows too that are like Kino's Journey that are better than this. Anybody have any comments about any of that?
Nope.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we can move on to spoilers.
Spoilers are coming. Oh my god.
All right, we can all agree that Pochi was the true hero in this story, right?
MVP.
Absolutely.
He's the best character, and he's the dog.
They tend to be the best characters in a lot of shows.
I love how high-pitched his bark is for such a big dog.
So I really like the OP in this anime. I thought that even the OP is silly. Like the literal fucking title is Gantan Goton, which is the onomatopoeia for train it's like it's their chugga chugga.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a fun little Easter egg.
Yeah, and it's just like that's essentially like the tone. That sets the tone for the whole show. But I thought the song itself was actually kind of catchy. I can remember it still, and I only listened to it a couple times. I thought the video was pretty neat, and I think we all agree. I mean, I see like on our notes, we all kind of like the OP.
Fun fact: even though that I love OPs, I think I only watched it once, and I never watched it again. So I have no idea.
I watched it a
cannot remember
couple of
anything
times
about this OP.
because I watched it the first episode and I didn't watch it anymore. I remember like, oh, it was okay. And you guys were raving about it, and I went, okay, I'll listen to it for the last couple of episodes. I say raving. Okay, I'm hyperbolic. I'm being hyperbolic. Okay, chill.
It was
chill,
okay.
chill.
Okay.
My issue. So I think I agree. I think animation wise, I think it looks really good. Like. I actually it was one of, actually I should have said the OP sets a standard for what I thought the show is gonna be like. Like, okay, with like those hand movements with the train, like the show was probably made for Train Otaku. Now that you mention it, but when they were like switching like speeds and whatnot, and it looks so really well animated, great. Musically, I like parts of the song, but the song feels awkwardly built, if in a weird, if you know what I mean. Like it's like they're. Because it's like, you know, da 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 shoo shoo train, and that part is like fun and all, and then there's like this weird video game sound towards the end, and then it just stops and it goes into like this, you know, like weird da 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 da, and then when that picks up, it gets really good again. But it's like it feels like that break comes in weird, or it should have been earlier. Like the song feels like it's ordered in a weird way. But animation-wise, I think it's really good, and I think the parts that I like about the song I really do like, and I feel like it's just like the show itself is a concoction. It's a metaphor of what we got in the show in the end, but not in the way I thought we were gonna get it.
I liked the opening. It was just catchy. Wow, you really broke it down though, because you're right. Like the break is weird, but I guess I liked it. I don't know. I'll just have to go off of that.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I don't think it was bad. I found it awkward, and so it took me out of it. But like I said, I just hummed like the song. You know, it is catchy. You know, it is catchy. Yeah.
So moving away from the opening, unless you guys have more to talk about from that.
No, not really.
I really like the world building in this one. Especially since we don't know what's going on outside of the train line, and they bring it up like the possibility that everything outside of this train line is gone. And even by the end, we still don't exactly know. And regarding the world building, by the end, I really think it's cool that the world wasn't completely fixed. And there's still remnants of this weirdness and the possibility it's an alternate timeline, so it may not even, you know, like be connected to what it was at first. And we still don't know what it is outside of this train line. So I thought everything, I mean, like, even if it might have been a little bit goofy in some ways, the different aspects of what happens to each town, I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, and this kind of goes into the world building thing, but I want to bring back a point you brought up earlier about how people keep finding themselves, even though they talk about how astronomically difficult it is. And you're right, there is some inconsistent logic there, but I feel because it's interesting, right? It's supposed to take this infinitely long time to get between each location, right? It takes them a day to get from the first station to the second station, right? From when they leave Agano to Higashi Agano or Nishi Agano. I can't remember which one. The east, I think it's East Agano.
Higashi is east,
okay.
So yeah, probably east. Yeah.
So Higashi Agano. So But then when she meets her dad later on, it's like, get back before we turn everything back to normal, or mom's never going to forgive you. And I'm like, that's not possible, because you guys are about to fix things in like a day.
And the rail is completely destroyed in the middle, like right before they get back home. Like, remember when they left and they got stuck in that storm and the rails got completely destroyed?
But it's also magic. Like, you have to think about it. Like, how are they able to talk with what is it, Morse code with that guy?
That killed me. That's on my list. I was gonna talk about that.
From thousands of miles away.
I mean, that's one thing. Like, I could probably give it, like, maybe there's some sort of energy going through the rails, because they mentioned like that, there's something about the train line and the, the the magic of whatever happened with the 7G stuff. So maybe it's like that, and for some reason in show that makes sense. But it doesn't make sense if the rail's completely destroyed. How is Morse code going to get to them?
Well, I mean, there's a scene. I mean, there's so much stuff in this anime that just doesn't even like. I just sort of like decided not to even worry about that, because I mean, there's a scene in this show, and this is how you know it's meant for little kids, where literally zombies replace the train tracks. Like,
oh, that was the best.
Yeah, like
Dave, that's Machina. That was what I was going to talk about.
Looney Tunes style, to get them to drive that train across them. I'm like, come on, like they're not gonna. There's like 4 or 5 different reasons why that's impossible. So, but like, so it's just not really. I didn't really worry about it. It's just.
Well, you kind of have to buy into the fact that they can do that when they're basically interdimensionally, 2 trains traveling through interdimensional space at that point. And I feel like we're gonna just nitpick all the inconsistencies, and they all are explained by 7G is magic. And but to go back to my point about how they keep running into each other, because these 4 characters are tied to that original character whose subconscious is taking over this whole 7G world, and in a weird way, it actually fits internal consistency that only this line exists, because she's from a small town. She's only traveled along this one line probably because she was like 12 when it happened, right? They were like in elementary school when she left, or she was in her first year of middle school, I think.
No,
when it happened.
Because like at the beginning of the show, I think they're doing like career evaluations. So they're like in their final year of high school, and the inciting incident is 2 years prior. So
okay, so she's in her first year of high school. 16? But even then, like, how often did you leave your small town when you were in your first year of high school to, like, it'd be the equivalent of just going down that train line. So it makes sense that everything else doesn't exist outside of that, because like I could even think back to like when I was younger, it's just like the world just sort of expands little by little for you. And then you come back later on, I'm like, oh, I've been to this one place one time before. I didn't realize it was so close to where I was. It felt like it was miles away when I was younger. Right. And so I feel like and I don't even know if that's what he was intending when he did it, but it really hits upon that. And I would give it that. But again, to go back to the point of them meeting each other, is that because these people are so intrinsically linked, and 7G is a thing of your mind shapes the reality around you to some extent, it makes sense that they keep running into the same people over and over again, because they're like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we had help right now? Of course the zombies just show up, because 7G sort of is that kind of magic. Even though Yoka is the one that is controlling it for the most part, I feel like the original premise of 7G as it's explained, it makes sense that you kind of do get that these characters would sort of like meet up again. And I think it is just a gag at the end when the guy on the swan boat just comes back and like hits the one guy off into the interdimensional space, and it's like, what's going on? And it's like, it's silly, it's funny, and I did enjoy those moments, but I'll let other people talk.
Do you guys have like a favorite?
I feel like...
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna change the subject, so.
No, go ahead. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, did you guys have like a favorite town that they stopped at? I feel like that's the whole show, is like the different towns. So I mean. It's like Ishizuku reviewers in that way. Like, we're not, instead of going to brothels, we're going to like towns. But I
think the Mushroom Village was actually a favorite, because it had like it was a bit of eeriness and a little weirdness. I don't love the whole mushroom butt thing, but that's a different story.
Oh my God, yeah. I could talk for ages about how much I hated Mushroom Butt Gate. No, 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 no. I also agree. I really liked Mushroom Town. It goes back to what I wanted to also talk about real quick, which was the message that I felt this was trying to convey is, I'm quoting one of the characters, is the more mystery and uncertainty life has to offer, the more fun the adventure. And I feel like when you got to Mushroom Town, you were getting to see these characters who were doom and gloom, and they were like, well, it's just better to live a little bit and then die than to like dare go beyond what is like in the fog. It was almost this portrayal of what anxiety and depression can look like, especially in adults. And so I really did enjoy that town and how easily it is that that sort of energy can just impact even bright and sunny people coming into it or people who are brand new to that. Some of the other towns got a little too zany for me.
Yeah.
I
think
Alice
the
Village. I don't like that one.
which village?
The one with a bunch of pigs and like
Yes.
it's on a manga
Alley.
they liked.
Yeah, Neri Alley world.
Oh, I thought it was like something Alice.
Well, no, it's the main character is Alice, but it's
got
called Neri Alley. At least that's what the subtitles called it, Neri Alley world. It was based off the manga that they watched and the anime that they watched.
And like and now that we know like that Yoka's behind all this, I do think it's interesting that the towns like reflect things that she knows, like that manga. I think that's pretty interesting.
Right.
I think I liked the mushroom one the best. Also, I mean, it had the most intrigue. It had a little bit of horror to it, a little bit, and I'm always hungry for that in anime because we just don't get it really at all. And it was a lot less silly than some of the other towns. I think it kind of, for me, it kind of got sillier as it went on. And I guess I'm just no fun, but like the sillier it became, like it was already too much with the talking animals. I'm just thinking like, how does this city function when like no one has thumbs? Like I kept thinking that like no one has thumbs. Like how are you making food? How are you like doing anything?
You just gotta take your logic and throw it out.
Throw it
for
out
the
the
show.
window. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Which I know.
My favorite.
That was your
go
favorite.
ahead.
That was your favorite town, the talking animals.
No, actually, it was a town after that, the manga town, where it was ruled by the manga artist. Because I think they played a lot with the animation styles for the characters and those tropes. So, like, there was like a very JoJo-esque character, a very classic battle manga. It was just like it's fun that they played with the different art styles from like not many, but they did that little bit of thing. And then she attacks them with cubism and fauvism and different like realistic art styles. So I thought that was fun as a town concept, and obviously I thought it was that's one of those highlights for me. It's like, oh, I was getting bored, and like I thought the animal town, the pig town with they're all shogi pieces in the end was stupid. But then I really liked that they did the stupidity with the manga because they did interesting things with it in animation that I think helps that whole point along. And so that's why that was my favorite town.
Do you think that each of these are resonating with us, though, in a way of that it's either something familiar or something we enjoy? Like, yes, I could see Andrew liking the mangaka town because, you know, you have that knowledge space, whereas, like, with the Shogo or Shoku, I'm trying to remember the game. I don't know the rules. So, Shogi. So, I don't know the rules to Shogi, so that's not going to jive with me. I'm not going to have that weighted, like, fun or adventure element to it because I don't know how the pieces work.
Shogi is basically chess. Like that is the basics of shogi. It's just they have a couple of different pieces that move a little bit differently. But even going in knowing that, and I'm trying to make the connection of like how they're moving, it really did not hit for me. Like I'm just like this. I can't follow along with this. It seems really random what they are doing.
I would second Andrew's pick with the artist town. I thought that was really cute. I like how they kind of foreshadowed it when they find the old teacher or whatever on the tracks, and he has the hat, and he's goofing off about how he beat them in a fight, and but I don't want to leave out the ending. Like I think the ending is like I don't know. I didn't really get it. Like I didn't understand like what Yoka's deal was. Like, why is she the chosen one. Like I guess I just didn't put those pieces together.
I don't know. I think it's because she pressed the button
That's it.
made her like the mind behind what happens. And so now she and the 7G are connected. So she kind of controls it.
Yeah, honestly, it is that surface level. Yes, that
Okay.
is
All
the
right.
whole premise. Is that
Guess I was
she's
looking
the
for
one
too
that
much.
pushed the button. Oh yeah, but they even explain it in I think the episode 10. I think it's the one where you see it from her perspective, and you see that little flashback. He's like, "Oh, well, I wasn't expecting her to basically become symbiotic with the button. We got to keep her happy because 7G doesn't make any sense. It's not Sue. It's just." Magic. It really is just magic, and that's how you have to think about it. But it's like soft magic. It's not like hard magic with rules or anything. It's just magic. And so when Yoka pushes the button, she becomes inextricably linked to the button, and because it was her mind frame that caused the world to exist. And if we go back to it, that's why everywhere across the world just disappears. And it's just everything along this one line, because that's probably all she knows in terms of like places in Japan.
Her reality.
Yeah, her reality. Outside of like the
Yeah.
stars that she really is into. Yeah.
She
So-
actually moved to Agano, right? Like, so she's from somewhere else, but maybe she just places so much importance in this one location and this one line of locations.
But do you remember where you were when you were 5? Because it seemed like she moved there when she was like 5 years old.
Yeah, I guess you're right
When
about
she was
that.
really itty bitty.
Yeah, so.
I do want to talk about the ending though, because that was maybe, other than the villain, one of my biggest gripes. I really was loving the fact that Yoka and our main character that I'm blanking on, Shizu,
Shizuru.
that they were bonding again, and she's like, "Yep, I see you. I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to grow and become an adult and like go into this career, and I'm here to support you. You don't have to come home with us. Like, that's not what the purpose of this journey was. It was to apologize so that we can grow our friendship." So then I was bothered when they brought her back home. Don't do that. That takes away from your messaging. It was such a like nice and like good message, I think, for, if we look what Mitsuki was saying, for younger kids, for girls and stuff. I ended up taking a look at what Crunchyroll rated. This is for 14-year-olds who might be on that precipice of like, what does it look like? What do friendships look like as adults? What do they develop into? And when you brought her back home, I just felt like it was taking it away. Like, that you had such a good moment, and I just felt like it ruined it.
I mean, I think, generally speaking, the idea of like, you should do what you want and, we will support you. I don't think that means that she has to stay in this post-apocalyptic Ikebukuro. I mean, at least say hello to your mom or your grandma or whoever it was. So I don't think it's, like, I don't think she's going to stay in Agano forever. I think that's just how their outlook for their friendship is. But that being said, Shizuru is an absolutely terrible friend. Like, can you imagine saying what she does to Yoka when they fight? It's just and that's one thing. But then she dug her heels in. She refuses to understand. What was so wrong about her saying, your dreams are trash, you'll never be able to do it?
It's pretty harsh.
And I don't remember her actually coming to the realization like, oh, that was a wrong thing to say. I think she just had to understand that's wrong, because otherwise there's no way they're going to get Yoka home,
Man.
Yeah, no, I would say, remember, she didn't actually live in Ikebukuro. The only reason she had a place in Ikebukuro is because she was linked to the button. So I guess it does make sense, but I think I would follow along the same lines as Caroline, that it was meant as no matter where we go in the future, it won't matter because we'll always be inextricably connected. So, but let's get you home because your mom misses you, probably, is how I took it.
At the end of the
Fair
anime,
point.
am I missing? Am I forgetting something, or did not everything go back to normal after they hit the button at the end?
Yeah.
No,
so,
it all changed. It became a little bit of like what it was before, and then a little bit of what it was then. And I think that's, again, it's a really cool idea of like, that is adulthood. Like, you go back home and it's never going to be a perfect encapsulation of like what your home was before, say, you went to college and came back. So I think that's really smart to say, that's how the world is going to exist now, is we're putting it back together, but not how it was.
And I
And
think
you have to
that-
keep moving forward.
Like, trying to apply logic to this completely illogical situation, but I think it makes sense that, like, you took one thing and then you warped it to practically not being recognizable. And so when you try to take that and try to make it back to the way it was, it can't be so perfect. So I think leaving remnants of this whole catastrophe makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. They were animals for 2 years. It would make sense that the reason why they didn't go back to being fully human because
Now they're furries.
Yeah, now they're animal heads.
Did anybody else want some of these girls to just get messed up during the show? Because I mean, like, and by that I mean they just look so perfect. And I'm especially talking about Raimi. I kept making this comment, like, these girls deal with and go through so much shit. Like they're constantly like slamming on the brakes on this train. They're getting chased by monsters, you know, tied to the tops of airplanes. You know, they get mushrooms ripped out of their heads. Like, all this stuff happens to them, and they still look so fucking perfect by the end of the show. I'm just like, the one girl manages to keep that damn flower in her hair the whole show, and I just wanted.
You're really stuck on the hair. I'd never thought about their hair, to be
I don't know.
honest.
It's just like I guess it's just because they just look so obnoxiously cute. But like but like I don't know. I just feel like it's a tough world out there in this show, and a dangerous world, and yet they look like they're ready for their first day of church.
Yeah, they don't even have baths.
I could like feed into that though, that idea of the world ends up at the end changing a little bit, because even though it reversed from the 7G, it's changed. Why can't the girls also be a little changed? Why can't they have some skin knees or some scars? Half the hair gets cut off. I actually kind of like that idea of let the girls get roughed up, in the sense that, like, let the world shape them a little bit more than them being perfectly fine.
Perfect, yeah.
Both when the button
Do
is hit
some
and when the
ripped
button
up,
is done.
you know, their school uniforms, they're spick and span, you know.
That's just animation, guys. Let's
Yeah.
be honest. That's
I mean, I just said
budget.
Oh, here's another thing. Why are the girls taking the potential of saving the world so lightly? Like, they run into the pair, like Shizuru's dad and like a couple other animals, and they're like telling them, like, you know, you have you could possibly change back the world, and they're like, well, you gotta find Yoka first. Like, jeez. And I'm like, you guys know that Yoka and the 7G's incident, they are connected. You can feasibly do both. So, and by stopping 7G, you will probably save Yoka in the process. So, and like, their families they now have the lifespan of these animals. And, you know, so why are they acting as if this is not a big deal?
Because actually, I think that's the most accurate representation of, like, being a teenager, is that literally your argument with your best friend is probably the worst thing that could happen to you. Who cares if the world is burning down? I can't believe that bitch told me I was fat. I don't know. You know, like, I thought we were best friends. I'm going to get her back for that. You know, like, but honestly, like, if you go back to it, I'm like, I think it's more unrealistic to think that as a 14, 15, 16-year-old, that saving the world is, like, your biggest priority for the majority of most kids. Like, it's really an exceptional thing to think about, right? Not every 15-year-old is getting, or 16-year-old is getting a Nobel Prize, right? Yeah. Most of them are just, like, chilling. And these are supposed to be just normal rural girls in Japan. Like, this makes perfect sense. Like, they don't, like, the world sucks and they've lived in it for 2 years. They just want to fix their friendship. And you know what? If the world gets fixed, hey, that's awesome. And it makes sense. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and I could buy into that. I mean, when you're a little kid, it's like saying I'm sorry is more important. They're not even thinking about the implications, probably. They just want to say sorry. I don't know. I'm ready to score it. I don't have anything else to say.
Alrighty.
Same.
Let's do it.
Same order. Caroline, you're up. Ladies first.
Oh, I mean, okay. Because I'm kind of unsure about my score, to be honest. Like, because generally I did like it, and I think it has a lot of potential, but it just kind of falls short in a lot of ways. It could be, like, you know, there were just some things that needed to be adjusted. But overall, I didn't hate this show, but I also wouldn't quite recommend it. So I'm going to have to give this show 2.5 mushroom butts out of 5.
All right. Lady Emery, you're on deck.
You stole my mushroom butts, so I have to come up with a different one.
Okay.
No.
Oh
my god, I hate
the
mushroom butts.
You want me to
so
come
much.
back to you?
No, I got it. Overall, I did enjoy parts of the show. I liked what it was trying to do. It just didn't execute on it, and there are other shows that do it better. So I am going to, after our discussion, give it 2.5. I like trains out of 5.
Yeah. Andrew, you gonna save the day here?
You stole my train one.
I like trains.
Okay. You said 2.5, Lady Emery?
I sure did, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I feel like we're all pretty much rating it the same thing. So don't worry, you didn't overrate it anything. It was a show that existed. Honestly, that's how I would put it. It did some interesting things, and it did a lot of not interesting things. But I liked some of the interesting things that it did. I liked some of the styles it played with. I liked the thought of where this could go. That first episode was a stronger first episode than the rest, and it gave potential to the show that it just never really reached. And yeah, so it's fine. So I'm gonna give it 2.5 trains fighting in interdimensional space out of 5.
Oh, do you mind if I mention just like one more thing? Like that one girl who does archery in the beginning, you know, they were in like an archery match like before the world turned to shit. And so I didn't know that, you know, 2 people would be in an archery match facing each other. So I don't know if that's just like an in-show thing. But then also off screen, she's like pummeling this guy with her bow. And I thought that was freaking hilarious.
All right. It was just too silly and too young for me, honestly. I'm just, you know, it's just the facts of it. It's fine. I mean, I didn't think it was awful. It wasn't the most moe show in the world. It wasn't the worst animated. It wasn't, you know, the worst at anything really. But I also didn't enjoy watching it at all, really. And it was tough to get through. It was because when you're not interested in something at all, it's really hard to keep up with like fast subtitles and just, you know, I don't know. So I'm gonna give it 1.5 times that guy changed back into like a weird dog old man out of 5, because that was probably the funniest thing in the show, was just him turning back into like a dementia-ridden old man or whatever the fuck. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I did like the speedy Morse code. For some reason I found that to be very satisfying. They were like.
I'd like to see what Japanese Morse code looks like, to be honest. I don't know how that really works out. That'd be curious. I guess they're still spelling letters, so if you know the Romaji, I guess you can. Yeah. So
perhaps this is something we could research during our after party.
Probably. I don't know what that comes out to, but probably not an overly great score. Next week we are going to be doing impressions. So been watching a lot of anime. To get ready for this, we have a lot of impressions to do next week. I just read them off for you guys so you know what we're doing. So we got MF Ghost Season 2, Blue Lock Season 2, lots of Season 2s here. Shangri-La Frontier Season 2, If My Wife Became an Elementary School Student, and also Yakuza Fiance. That's what we're going to be doing impressions on next time. So definitely interesting. So, and there will be 3 of us here to do each of those impressions. So. All right, that's the show for today. Thanks to the crew representing Lady Emery, getting through the episode, even though she had an impaired vocal cords. What a trooper!
Thank you guys for putting up with me.
What a trooper! Caroline for having a very good, nice, brand new haircut.
Oh well. A week old, but okay, thanks.
You have to jump on the Twitch if you want to see that. I don't have any hair, so I'm jealous. Andrew for always being a sparky personality and having a Nintendo Switch behind him that's unopened, I think.
True.
I didn't notice that till just now, but there it is. And for me, for being bold and grumpy, I'll see you guys next time on the podcast. We're going to do an after party. Thanks so much, everybody listening. We love you, and good night.
Bye.
Laters.